So, should the Bears trade for Davante Adams? Watch this video to find out my opinions on what if the Bears should definitely try to be in the conversations for a possible trade for Davante Adams. So, people want to say, "Oh, Adams just went to a new team last season. What makes you think he's gonna leave the Raiders after just being there for one season, folks?" The Raiders are moving on from Derek Carr. And Davante Adams is not very happy because the only reason why he even went to the Raiders in the first place was to reunite with his former former college quarterback Derek Carr, and they're moving on from him. So that's not really going to make Davante Adams happy. So does Davante Adams really want to consider, like, he's only 30, like he's got a couple years left in him. I do think that the Bears desperately need a receiver, and yes, they are going to go into this offseason with a need for a receiver. And Davante Adams, if he were to get traded, he fills right in that gap immediately. But people want to say, "Oh, well, what about draft capital? What about this and that, folks?" I'm going to say this: if we have to give up multiple first round picks for Davante Adams, then so be it. I'm being serious. I'm being dead serious. Because people think, "Oh, because you don't have a first round pick, that means you're going to suck." Nope. I've seen it happen way too many times with teams. You could pick in the later rounds, get a steal. That doesn't mean the Bears shouldn't still draft a receiver, but you should draft a receiver to develop them. Like, you can't just place this whole entire offense under just a rookie receiver. You have to give I think Justin goes into the MVP conversations next year if Davante Adams is his number one receiver. Because if you look at Davante Adams, he is consistently good no matter who's his quarterback. Whether that's Brad Huntley, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Jared Statham, he's always going to be that dangerous threat. That's always going to be reliable. Whenever the game's on the line, he's that guy to go to. People want to say, "Oh, he has too much money." Folks, we have 120 million in cap space next year. I think we'll be fine trading for Adams. Oh, but what about draft capital? You're acting like just because we trade our first round, possibly the first overall pick or second overall pick, it hurts the team. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it affects the future, but people act like there hasn't been steals in the later rounds. Like, that's what people don't understand. Yeah, the Bears could still have a first round pick. Like, the Raiders are going to be the 8th and ninth and 10th overall pick. Like I said, they're going to rebuild, and they're going to, and Davante Adams doesn't and people say, "Oh, why would Davante Adams want to come to Chicago?" Well, that's a good question. Same thing could have been said when he got traded to the Raiders, because I didn't see the Raiders making the Super Bowl. I didn't see it. He didn't go to the Raiders because he wanted to win a Super Bowl. He just wanted to go to the Raiders because of his best friend, Derek Carr. And nowhere in his mind did he think that he was going to go to the Raiders and win the Super Bowl. That's all he wanted. That's why he even went to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr. And I think Davante Adams is going to be traded. He's going to be traded. He's going to demand a trade because he's not happy about their decision, and he's not going to waste his prime years in a potential rebuilding team for this offseason. The Raiders, who are looking to take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. And you look at a team like the Bears that don't need a quarterback, and they're going to be the second and first overall pick. You'd be like, "Oh, well, shit. Hey, let's call the Chicago Bears because they don't need a quarterback, and they're like the second and first. Let's give Chicago a first round pick, which would be their original pick, Davante Adams, and we would have to give up our original pick, possibly a future first overall pick, and a potential Like Davante Adams, he doesn't come in with with a less price. Davante Adams comes in with like the Packers got 2 first-round picks out of Davante Adams, and I don't know what the Raiders got. I don't think they traded their first-round picks for Davante Adams. So, folks, I believe they still had a first-round pick, but I think yeah, they have a first-round pick this year. So, folks, if we have to give up draft capital for Davante Adams, then so be it. People act like Steelers steals don't come out in the fucking six like the later rounds just because you don't have a first round pick doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean shit. Like you people forget that there are some steals at the wide receiver draft class for next year. I mean, for this year's upcoming draft class. Like they just don't talk about them because they're not from the popular colleges. Like what's his face? From the wide receiver from SMU that's entering the draft. I think it was like Ray Rice or something like that. Someone remind me in the comments, but he's looking to be a potential steal in this draft. Like I'm being serious. Like just because we give up a first round pick doesn't mean anything. So folks, I'm not saying just because if we get Davante Adams, we don't need to draft a receiver because you want to draft a receiver to develop him. Like I see these multiple podcasts be like, "Oh, it would be a waste because Davante Adams is old and yada yada." It would be a smart move to go after a guy like Davante Adams and bring in a young flesh blood to develop him. So, folks, Chicago Bears Nation, let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. But I think the Bears should, even if it's not Davante Adams, they necessarily need to be reaching out to all these teams that are planning to blow it up. The Cardinals, the Broncos, the Colts, the who else? I think the they need to reach out to all these teams that are looking to blow up their team and see if they can get their number one guy for just the field. So, anyways, thank y'all for watching. As always, like and subscribe. And as always, bear down.